What's up, everybody? This is your friend Roy welcoming you to the Meta Roy podcast. Every week on this show, we are going to make crypto simple by delving deep into one aspect of the world of crypto. Today, we are going to take a step towards understanding Web 3.0. But before we dive into the mad world of crypto through this podcast, I want all of us to build something. You build your knowledge and you get one friend too. It's a total win-win. I know, I might be talking to millions of people through this, but trust me, everything that I say here, I'm saying directly to you. Which is why I have a request. I want you to extend this friendship and follow me on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or whichever platform you're listening to me on. In return, I promise to have your back in anything and everything Web3 has to offer. Before we start though, just a quick disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor and none of the following content is financial advice. So please do your due diligence before making any moves in the crypto space. With that out of the way, let's get started. So what comes to your mind when you hear the word internet? Do you see it as a way to get access to information, learn a new skill, watch something on YouTube, be entertained? Or maybe you use it to stay in touch with your near and dear ones. Or maybe for online shopping. Or maybe just scrolling through memes. For most of the world out there, the internet has become synonymous with communication. Social media is the way they get their information. They talk to other people, watch videos, interact with their peers in their daily lives. Others may use the internet for work, meeting, shopping, payments, many more such uses, right? The internet has truly penetrated each and every aspect of our daily lives. But do you know about the new open internet that is quietly building up from behind the shadows and now is finally starting to come up in the forefront? Some people know it as Web 3.0, some call it the world of crypto, others might know it as the metaverse. But none of these terms actually seem to give us the complete picture. So in this episode, I wanted to try and give you a complete picture of what the internet was, what it has turned into, and where are we going ahead with it in the future. So let's dive into this weird wide world of the World Wide Web. The internet has evolved a lot over the last 3 decades or so. But let me give you an overall picture first. First, there was the Web 1.0, which was more of static web pages, no interactivity, quite boring. Around 2004 or so, we got more JavaScript, we got a more interactive version of the internet, and now slowly we are moving towards Web 3.0, an immersive new world. If I had to give you a high-level analogy, I would probably use an example of the movies. So if Web 1 represented the black and white movie era, Web 2 would be the age of color or basic 3D animation, while Web 3 would be like CGI or like IMAX or maybe immersive experiences such as virtual reality. But before we jump into something that looks straight out of Steven Spielberg's movie Ready Player One, which by the way I would definitely recommend for you to watch to understand what the future of the metaverse might look like, let's take a little stroll down the memory lane to understand where it all started. Now, you have to understand that something like this was already in development since the 70s. The US military was kind of using it to build a network of their own called the ARPANET. But it came to a more consumer level on the 90s itself after the World Wide Web came into picture. In 1989, Tim Berners-Lee, a British scientist, had the idea to merge computers, networks and hypertext into a powerful and easy to use global information system. With that came the first application that was built on the internet, the World Wide Web. You may recall the earliest days of the internet. I surely do. Connecting to the internet was a complicated process in itself. I remember the modem used to make funny noises while connecting, and I used to imitate that as a kid as well. So those were the good old surfing days. You'd dial in, you'd wait for an eternity, and even after that, downloading like a picture took years. The Google nemesis at that time was Alta Vista, which was like the default search engine. Or maybe you used Lycos, I don't know. Web design wasn't even the sperm of thought. It was all static web pages, quite boring, right? But for all its shortcomings, Web 1 was actually considered quite decentralized because it was powered by users like you and me, who actually hosted their own content. It was designed to be this giant library of data sourced together on the screen from computers all across the network for users to browse around by clicking around linked text and images. Since the code was made freely available, anyone could build their own websites and host it on the web. Web 1's decentralized infrastructure was the reason anyone could share information of any kind to anyone in the world without taking the permission of any central gatekeeper. Now I know putting stuff online was still difficult. You needed certain technical skills to build your own website. Back in 2003 when I built my first website for my school, I remember how much I struggled with HTML. Let's just say it was not for everyone. But in less than 10 years, we transitioned to this shiny new Web 2.2. I think it all started in 2004 when, the first JavaScript websites came into picture. We got Orkut, we got Facebook in 2006. And with that, the users of the web had become grouped around these winners like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. They had started pulling a huge number of users, like how a black hole pulls everything into it, leaving nothing behind. Web 2 made it easy for anyone to publish content online. Remember the days when you used to post scrap messages on Orkut, or the first time you used Facebook? Do you remember how easy it was compared to what came before that? So when these overall barriers came down, users and usage of the internet surged. For the first time, the internet had something for everyone. Social media actually helped us show our faces and emerge from anonymity. We went on sharing photos to online dating pretty soon. Mobile users overtook desktop as we became glued to our screens for most part of the day. E-commerce made it easy for, buying stuff online without stepping off your couch. But behind all of this, the internet became centralized. As we suddenly gained access to more people, ideas, and technologies that our brains knew what to do with, the central platforms like Facebook, Google, YouTube blew up like mushroom clouds, consolidating network effects into monopoly power. Now Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, all of these companies control our conversations, searches, content, media, and data. They have actually built entire ecosystems designed to track you, trap you, and extract value out of you. You are the product. The open forum of the internet has now become a walled garden. Today's internet is an oligarchy. As we get locked in, we pay the price not in dollars, but in personal data and content to be mined, sold, and fed back into secret algorithms that hijack our attention so that we'd give more of it. All under the veil of free and improving user experience. I'll explain this with an example of an app that we use every day, WhatsApp. Now networks actually become more valuable as you gain more users, right? This is called the network effect, in short. You join WhatsApp to talk to your friends, mom joins WhatsApp to talk to you, dad joins WhatsApp to talk to mom. Before you know it, the whole world uses WhatsApp. Now if you want to continue talking to people, you cannot leave. That's how the network effect traps you. Now in February 2021, WhatsApp changed its privacy rules to a take it or a leave it announcement. It would harvest more user data for profit. Millions swore that they would ditch the app for more private alternatives, including yours truly. Not enough to escape the network's gravitational pull, it turns out. While many of us chat on Signal and Telegram these days, very few of us actually manage to get off WhatsApp completely. I know you'll agree with this. You still want to talk to mom, mom still wants to talk to dad. In this digital era, customer value is a direct function of network size. Users can't leave. Startups can't compete. Media developers and creators have no choice but to play ball with the big companies. The network's pull is too strong. And this is why we need a new web, because the current one is broken. When we started out, the web did not have a way for exchanging value. People weren't keen on pulling out credit cards online. So the default business model became to attract users with free stuff and sell access with their eyeballs. Basically advertising. So attention became the internet's native currency. Sites started competing for it. They started tracking you more and more. They created this algorithmically generated content loop that you can't stop scrolling. Clickbaity headlines that you can't stop clicking. We are all fed a personalized diet of content, and content that triggers us the most. Different opinions have become different facts altogether. You and me have two different realities online. And as your alternative reality clashes with mine, Facebook's stock price goes up. The bigger the fire, the higher the profits. Social media brings the world together to actually tear it apart because it's good for business. Platforms actually own everything that you create online. This includes the profile data that you fill out, the behavioral data that you generate, the images, videos, songs, status updates, and comments you upload. Quite literally so, when you upload anything on an internet platform, the file is copied onto its servers and the ownership is passed to the company. It becomes like this mine of raw material data. And this is what they sell to the advertisers because they are the actual customers. Did you know that 90% of the web is stored with 4 hosting providers, the biggest of which is Amazon Web Services? Their data centers run the sites and apps that we used every day. Facebook, Twitter, Airbnb, Uber, Reddit, Netflix, and so on. These companies control the gates to the global marketplace of ideas. And they can censor your accounts, your apps, your websites before you can bat your eye. And as if that was not enough, your internet can even be censored by your government if you don't play according to their rules. Censorship is the new way to exert control over the population when your government cannot control you. And it's as easy as blocking a handful of central servers, as the governments know all too well to do. To top it all, with all of these billions of devices uploading their data to a handful of giant data centers, it is becoming easier for hackers every day to steal sensitive information. Do you know how easy it is to hack a centralized server? It means someone could potentially steal my bank credentials by hacking my smart fridge. Oh no! It means cyber terrorists can freeze ATMs, shut down railroads, and paralyze hospitals by taking control of outdated Windows computers. If that is not scary, I don't know what is. A centralized internet is a permanent risk. But how did such a beautiful thing turn dark so quickly? How did we get to this point? Because the founders of the internet never meant it to be centralized. However, they kind of overlooked the core principle of human society, trust. When you trust someone, you're sure that they'll behave along the lines you expect them to. In the earliest days of the human civilization, you'd hardly find people dealing outside friends and family. As we started to settle down and move towards agriculture, staying in one place for extended period of time gave rise to private property and valuable possessions. But this also led to an increase in theft and violence. Hence, we placed our faith in institutions like governments, banks, courts, even religious places of worship, because they gave us a standard narrative of sorts, a story to believe in. Governments gave us the assurance that they will take care of building roads for us. Banks gave us the assurance that they will take care of our money. A court ensures that you will get justice. That is the standard narrative. Hence, by dealing with these institutions in between, that is how we expanded the circle of trust in our societies. Because as a civilization, we needed to keep these records of transactions, be it a land record or taxes or anything of that sort. And this problem was carried over to the online economy, which could not flourish without these institutions as well. The early web also leaned into the old habit of centralized trust management very shortly after it was decentralized at first. Today's internet institutions have actually unlocked global business avenues by letting software take care of trust. I'll give you an example. You get into a stranger's car to reach somewhere else because Uber's software assures you that the stranger has been vetted by them as a verified driver. By using Uber's networked software, two strangers anywhere in the world can collaborate and transact at scale in a peer-to-peer manner. That is pretty awesome, right? However, the catch is the Uber still owns this global network of drivers. And even though it does not own the asset, which is the cab in this case, it still takes away most of the winnings from this collaboration between you and the driver. But as history repeats itself, every institution that distributes power, money or status eventually falls to bias and corruption. Uber is no exception. Drivers running on the Uber network regularly protest against Uber's policies. We can't trust banks, Facebook and Uber to take care of trust because we cannot ultimately trust the individuals that constitute them, especially when they have grown so powerful that they can bend laws, use their network effects to kill their competition and escape regulatory frameworks. So as you see, the problem here is twofold. Record keeping helps scale society by constructing a centralized version of the truth that large group of peoples can agree upon. But society cannot trust the record keeper because the record keeper is human and humans are naturally selected to be self-interested. So how do we keep records objective and immune to human biases? The answer is pretty simple. We remove humans from the equation altogether, and that is where Web 3.0 comes in. Web 3.0 is this new iteration of the internet that is built on the foundation of something called as blockchain technology. Let's not overcomplicate things in this one. We'll explain blockchain technology to you in the coming episode. But for now, let's just understand that the blockchain is simply a software that keeps record of transactions. Think of it as just a digital ledger, which is decentralized and keeps records of who holds what in the network. This can be money, property titles, medical records, anything someone would care to own. So how do blockchains solve this problem? The answer is simple. Blockchains automate trust. Users do not need to trust record keepers anymore. They can place their faith in the blockchain records because they are verified by a network of participants. A decentralized network. A network that does not allow bad actors to manipulate records. Because there is no central authority with an agenda, the network is actually governed by a series of participants in the network. Trust is coded in the system itself, distributed across all network participants. It's a self-governing network community of people all across the globe. And why do people participate in it? Because it rewards you for maintaining the network. In the same way that society pays you money for being a part of it, for giving it what it needs, blockchains pay you coins for giving the network what it needs. So by harnessing the blockchain to decentralize management, we are finally able to reduce the control of big corporations such as Google or Facebook and make the internet more democratic. By being open source, that is, the code is available for the world to see and use, by being more trustless, which means that it does not require the support of an intermediary or an institution, and by being permissionless, which means that it is not governed by any one body, but rather by a global network of users. By being all of this, Web3 can finally live up to the original ethos of the internet. Let's use the OG blockchain, the big daddy of blockchains, Bitcoin, to actually understand how blockchains work to keep track of money transactions. Think of Bitcoin as a giant Excel sheet that records every transaction. So the Bitcoin ledger keeps track of how much currency each user holds. The network is maintained by a set of computers who are constantly validating the transactions. They are called miners and they get rewards in Bitcoin for securing the records. Now let's say I wanted to pay you 1 Bitcoin. Everyone in their network updates their copy of the ledger with a new block of data that contains a record stating that I paid you 1 Bitcoin. So this new block of data, this new record that is added, is verified and secured by miners using cryptographic algorithms, and the miners get rewarded in Bitcoin for using their computing power to do so. Let's take the case of the Ethereum network. By now, the idea of a network running applications should quite sound familiar to you. Ethereum is a decentralized alternative for the centralized internet, a new internet that is owned by all of its users instead of a single corporate behemoth. But how is Ethereum different from Bitcoin? Well, if Bitcoin is a spreadsheet, Ethereum is a spreadsheet with macros. So macros are these applications that you can use to write and automate tasks in Microsoft Excel. Simply put, the Ethereum is a blockchain with its very own programming language. It's like a giant supercomputer made up of all the computers in the Ethereum network. Developers can actually build applications that help us do different tasks by building and coding this on the blockchain. But the difference here is these applications are also decentralized. Let's take an example of a decentralized application. If you had to take a loan in the past, you would probably have to approach a centralized authority, like a bank. You'd have to show them the entire history of your income, your credit history, lots of other stuff, documentation, etc. before they even consider giving you a loan. With a decentralized app like Aave or Compound, you could just add your wallet address and the protocol which is the code behind the application, will actually connect you to a lender in a peer-to-peer manner and help you get a loan. And you can pledge your security, let's say your Bitcoin, your NFTs or other digital assets, for example, into the contract. Simply put, it's a decentralized lending system which is built on the Ethereum blockchain, and it grants digital asset holders the ability to borrow and lend crypto against security. Super awesome, right? So, like how Bitcoin's blockchain pays BTC for securing the ledger, Ethereum pays Ether, ETH, for securing and executing and verifying the code of decentralized applications. Of course, Ethereum has its own shortcomings, and we'll get to that in the future episodes, but we are slowly and steadily moving to a better version, Ethereum 2.0 so to say. I believe that it's definitely going to drive mainstream adoption once it gets released. And Ethereum is definitely not alone in the game. Other blockchains like Cardano, Solana, etc. have different implementations all by themselves. By doing that, they are actually trying to solve Ethereum's transaction fee problems. Some are focusing on more decentralization, some are focusing on more scalability, some are focused on security, so on and so forth. Specifically, the blockchain trilemma. We'll get to these in the next episode on decoding the blockchain. But for now, let's understand that whoever wins this game, we are all going to have a more open version of the internet. That is for sure. For now, the closing thought is that Web 3.0 is essential because it cuts out the middleman and directly connects people to one another. Just as the 2010s were the decade when Web 2.0 became the dominant force in the global business and cultural landscape, it might just be Web 3's turn in the 2020s. Web 3 technologies are actually striving to create a more democratic version of the internet. And even corporate giants are feeling the punch. Facebook changed their name to Meta on October 28, 2021. And this could well turn out to be an early sign that the shift to Web 3 is picking up steam. It is, after all, the new age of the internet. Unhackable, uncensorable, governed by its users and rewarding the work the network needs with a native currency. A trinity of the internet, free market and democracy. It is the original version for the web come true.
Oh yeah.
That's it for today, folks. In the next episode, we will dive in deeper to understand all the other aspects of what makes a blockchain network so unique and important to Web3. Stay tuned because over the course of this podcast, we will explore many such other tech innovations that are going to change the way we live in a big way. I hope you enjoyed this episode of why Web3 came into being. I would love to hear your feedback, your thoughts on this episode. Drop me a comment on my website, themetaroy.com, or on my Twitter or Instagram handles @themetaroy. Links are in the description. Thanks a lot, guys. I will see you next week. Bye bye for now.